Okay, so another movie to talk about today. This one is Bring Her Back, which is a 2025 release. It just released in theaters on the 30th of May. It is listed as a supernatural horror and mystery with a runtime of 1 hour and 44 minutes. It is rated R for strong, disturbing, bloody content, some grisly images, graphic nudity, underage drinking, and language. I will make a note here that the graphic nudity is non sexual in nature, just for those who might be wondering. So, this is the second, I believe, full length outing for the Philippou Brothers, and I hope I'm saying that properly. I've looked it up a couple different places, and that seems to be how they say it. But this is Danny and Michael Philippou, who did the amazing, amazing Talk to Me from a few years ago. And they started out on YouTube, from what I know. And they came kind of out of nowhere with Talk to Me a few years ago, and just really talented filmmakers. And so when I heard that they were making another movie, I was very excited. Danny co-wrote this with Bill Heinzman, who is a frequent collaborator with them. He also wrote Talk to Me. He is going to be writing the sequel to Talk to Me with them. So he's familiar with their work, and they work well together. These are people that collaborate all the time. So as far as the actors involved, we have Sally Hawkins, who I mostly know from two places. One, she was in Guillermo del Toro's The Shape of Water. She was also in the newest Godzilla continuity, Godzilla and King of Monsters. She was Dr. Vivian Graham. And she was in the new Wonka movie from a year or two ago, which I personally did not see, but I did notice it on there that she played Will's mom, or she played Willie's mom. Additionally, in this, we have Billy Barrett, at least I believe that's how you say it, and he is a young actor who was in Craven, which I cannot recommend that you watch, but he played young Dimitri in Craven. And then when I looked it up, The White Princess on Stars from a few years ago, he was Prince Arthur in that. So then we also have two young actors in this, Jonah Wren Phillips and Sora Wong. Before I get into talking about this movie, I'm going to go ahead and put a disclaimer here that this is a very rough watch. This is a very rough movie to get through, and it's going to be a little rough to talk about, just on multiple levels. There's a lot here. And if you really want to watch this movie, I think it's probably best to go in kind of blind, not knowing a lot about it, because that's what I've done with this and Talk to Me. And I think it really makes them more impactful to not really know a lot about what is going on, what's going to happen in this film. So my suggestion would be, if you're going to plan on seeing this, especially in the near future, that you turn this off, bookmark it for later, and come back. Because yeah, there's gonna be, I can't talk about this movie without getting into some spoilers. And also, like I said, this was Sinners. Knowing as little as possible going in, I think, really elevates the movie. So that is my suggestion. Feel free to continue listening, but that is what I'm going to be putting out there. So now, getting into this. So we'll talk about the pros first. One of the biggest pros is the acting. All of the actors on this do an amazing job. The chemistry between them is phenomenal. Sora Wong, this is her first role, and like her character, she is blind, and she does an amazing job. Both she and Jonathan Wren Phillips do a great job because, like I said, they are younger actors, and this is very hard subject material to be covering. They do very, very well. I understand why the brothers decided to include both of them in this project. So, the description for this movie says that a brother and sister uncover a terrifying ritual at the secluded home of their new foster mother. And boy, does that not even get into it. So, this is the third movie, I think, in a week that I have watched that deals with someone trying to bring back someone who's died. And there's a lot of different ways to go about this. I didn't really think about how many movies there are out there that this is the subject But there you go. That's what this is. So the basic setup for this is, like I said, we have a brother and sister. They lose their father and are sent to live with Sally Hawkins. Had a daughter who was blind, which makes her, a good caregiver for Sora. In the movie, her name is Piper. It makes her a good guardian for Piper because she knows how to care for a blind child. So it's a good fit for her. But ultimately, the goal is for the brother, Andy, played by Billy, to basically adopt her and become her guardian when he turns 18, which is in a few months from the time the movie takes place. So that's our setup. I'm not going to go too much into it, but when they get there is when we meet Jonathan Wren Phillips' character, Ollie, and it's quite the intro. I will say that. Which is going to lead into, there's a lot of very shocking content in this film. And I don't mean just visually, atmospherically, emotionally. This whole film is unnerving. There's a lot of upset and turmoil to it. And that is, of course, done on purpose. The subject matter that we are dealing with is supposed to be uncomfortable. We have two minors who have just lost their father. We have Sally Hawkins' character, Laura, who is just in the recent past lost her daughter. And then we have Ollie, who we don't really know how he fits into all of this, but it's a very uncomfortable situation, which I mean, it would be. It's a very real kind of feeling to it. And there's kind of this constant lurking dread to the film that is broken up by some very in your face, really, really uncomfortable visuals. There are also some quieter moments in this that have a sense of desperation to them that is really kind of heart-wrenching. It's a kind of brutal combination. You have this really heavy real-world subject matter that you're dealing with, and then you also have on that this other layer of existential dread for these characters. So besides this kind of overarching sadness, you have some very shocking visual elements along with some very sad moments that are very, very real. They're portrayed so well, and that's what I said about Sora and how well she does. I'm not a person that gets impacted emotionally by movies very much. If it's not a documentary, if it's not about something that like actually happened, it's very hard to get me to like emotionally respond to a film. And I was this close, guys. I was this close to like breaking down in this movie. And that doesn't happen a lot. I do not get affected on an emotional level like that. I watch so much stuff. I watch so many horror movies. I watch so many different things. Unless it's a real world documentary, there's real, true bad stuff happening, it does not generally affect me. This did. So that gives you an idea of what you're in for. And that's why I say it is a very, very rough watch. There's a lot of similar thematic elements to Talk to Me. One of the biggest being, of course, the grief aspect and having minors or younger adults dealing with the loss of parents, the threat of loss of a younger sibling is also in this. So there are some similar themings. This is just a lot heavier. This is done in a lot more brutal way. And really, that's the only way I can think of to describe it, is brutal. This just completely rips off any kind of pretense, any kind of cushioning you might have normally with this kind of material. It's just raw. It's just very, very raw. It's an extremely well done slow burn. It is plotted well. It is paced perfectly. The information that the audience needs to know is only kind of revealed when you need to know it. It is not something that goes into a lot of exposition. It's not something that is going to explain everything to you. For me, that's fine. I think it's very impactful. I think it works very well for a real world setting because things are messy, right? Life isn't all tied up in a little bow, and Lots of times things happen and we don't really know all of the whys and why fors. So I think that aspect of it is also very well done. I think that a lot of the themes are very similar to a lot of what people will call quote unquote horror classics of the last few years, but I think that this does them in a way that is different enough and better, really. Okay, it handles them better. Like I said, I've already watched, this is the third movie I've watched in like a week that has to deal with this kind of bringing back a dead person subject matter. The grief as a metaphor in horror. These things have all been done a lot in the last few years. This does a lot of them better. There are some really critically acclaimed movies from the last few years that I personally am not a huge fan of. I think they're very flawed. I think that this movie handles the material better. It's just a much harder film to watch. So that leads into the what I'm going to call the cons of this movie, and that's that there are some really really graphic, disturbing scenes in this. If you are a person that does not like to be uncomfortable, who does not like to have visuals affect them, this is not this is not for you. This is not a movie that you will enjoy because there are several scenes that keep popping back into my head that are just very shocking, very disturbing, and they're used very impactfully, very effectively. They're not just thrown in there just because. It just makes for a very, very difficult watch. A lot of the scenes, including the ones with the kind of more graphic elements, are very emotionally charged. Like I said, this is very, very heavy emotionally speaking. There's a lot of material here that a lot of people are going to be uncomfortable with. That's kind of the whole point of this movie, is for you to be uncomfortable because of the material in it. And as I said, I'm not one that gets affected by that stuff very much. I was with this one, so I'm going to say watch at your own risk. This is not one that I'm going to say that, people should go out, run out and see it because it's great. No, I can't do that. Like the last movie that I really enjoyed that I said was like very perfect in the way that it was made was Sinners. And that one I think everyone should see. I think it's an amazing movie and I cannot wait to watch it again. I will watch this again at some point. But like with Talk to Me, when it came out on streaming, I watched it again immediately because I thought it was so well done and I enjoyed it. I did not enjoy this movie. I think if you do enjoy this movie, there's probably a therapist you need to be talking to because it is that dark and heavy and it doesn't make you feel good. You feel icky, you know? So the only thing that I would even slightly criticize about this, and this is not a criticism for me, this is a criticism for people in general who might watch this, is that the ending of this movie, which I think I mentioned before, is a very real world, very grounded ending. And I think that will ultimately be unsatisfying for some people. I think everything is not tied up in a little bow. Everything is not fully explained. There's a lot of mystique and a lot of mystery to kind of what has happened and what will happen. Not in a way where the movie is incomplete by any means. We have a full story here. But I think if you are a person who likes to have a very solid conclusion to what has happened and a lot of explanation for what has happened, this probably isn't going to be for you. Things are explained enough that you understand, and to me that kind of adds to the realism to it, because in the real world stuff happens and we don't know why, and things don't always end well, and things don't go the way that they should or that we feel that they should. And that's this movie. It's a very high quality film, from the acting to the atmosphere, the cinematography, the effects. Everything about this is quality. And it makes me excited for what the Philippou Brothers will do in the future. I kind of hope that in the next one they lay off the heavy death grief topic a bit, because we've had two movies that are very kind of heavy with that in some ways. I think if you are a fan of horror, if you are a fan of unsettling things, that this movie is worth a watch. But I don't think there's going to be a lot of people who want to rewatch this movie. And like I said, if it's one that you sit there and you enjoy, I yeah, you scare me. Okay, if you enjoyed watching this movie, the entirety of this movie, yeah, I'm afraid of you on a very real level. There are scenes that are fun and nice, and the relationship between Andy and Piper is adorable and enjoyable. And I think even Laura's love for her daughter, while it is twisted because of her death and has made her into like a terrible person in some ways, that's what happens sometimes to people when they go through terrible things. So yeah, as I said, very heavy. So I guess overall my feelings on this are it's a very, very quality movie. It's very good. It is done so well. Not for everyone. Definitely not for everyone. And it is not something you're going to want to go into watching lightly because of how real and how kind of horrible a lot of the subject matter is. It's a very high quality film. It deals with a lot of really hard subject matter in a very, very good way. And it's just very, very well done. And I cannot wait to see what these brothers do next. I think that they have a very long, very bright future ahead of them should they want to continue in film. And additionally, all of the actors, the younger actors and actress in this, I think also have a lot of years in the business ahead of them should they want it because of their performances in this film. So that's going to be it from me for this one. I'm honestly just talking about this movie has kind of bummed me out. So I'm going to cut it off there. And I don't know, I go cuddle with one of my cats, I think. So anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. I really appreciate you tuning in and listening to me ramble today. And I hope that I will see you in the next one. Thanks.